欢迎来到大师英文。今天为您带来的故事是《穿着 Prada 的恶魔》。这部2006年的经典电影由梅丽史翠普和安海瑟薇主演。现在，让我们开始吧。Andrea Sachs was a bright young woman with a clear plan. She had just graduated from Northwestern University. Andrea, known as Andy, moved to New York City to chase her dreams. She wanted to be a serious journalist, writing about politics and news. However, finding a job in the publishing industry was extremely difficult. She sent out resumes everywhere, but only one place replied. It was Runway magazine, the most prestigious fashion magazine in the world. Andy did not care about fashion at all. She wore simple, practical clothes and comfortable shoes. She thought this interview would just be practice. She arrived at the Elias Clark building, looking out of place. The lobby was filled with tall, thin women wearing high heels. Andy met Emily, the first assistant, who looked at her with disdain. Emily said, "Human resources has a strange sense of humor." Suddenly, everyone in the office started panicking. Someone shouted, "She's on her way! Tell everyone!" Miranda Priestley, the editor-in-chief, walked in like a queen. She threw her coat and bag on Emily's desk without looking. Miranda looked at Andy from head to toe. Miranda asked, "Who are you?"
I'm Andrea Sachs. I recently graduated and won a writing award.
"And you have no style or sense of fashion."
I think that depends on...
No, that's all. Andy was dismissed, but she didn't leave immediately.
I am not skinny or glamorous, but I am smart and I work hard.
Miranda paused and looked at her again. She was hired. The job was a nightmare from day one. Andy had to answer phones that never stopped ringing. She had to get coffee, pick up dry cleaning, and book flights. Miranda never called Andy by her real name. She would just say, "Emily," even though Emily was sitting right there. Andy's boyfriend, Nate, was a chef who didn't understand her job.
Why do you let her treat you like that? It's just a magazine. If I survive 1 year, I can work at any newspaper I want.
At work, Annie made a mistake during a fashion run-through. She chuckled when 2 belts looked exactly the same to her. Miranda stopped the room. "You think this has nothing to do with you? You are wearing a sweater that was selected for you by the people in this room." Andy felt humiliated. She went to Nigel, the art director, for sympathy.
I don't fit in. I'm not skinny or stylish.
Andy, don't be silly. You are not trying. Runway is not just a magazine. It's a beacon of hope for artists.
Nigel's words woke her up. She decided to change. Nigel took her to the closet, a massive room filled with designer clothes.
Try this and these Chanel boots.
The next day, Andy walked into the office, looking completely different. She wore a chic blazer, a short skirt, and high leather boots. Emily was shocked. Even Miranda seemed briefly impressed. With her new look, Andy started to take her job more seriously. She anticipated Miranda's needs before she asked. However, this dedication came at a cost. She missed Nate's birthday party because of a work emergency.
You used to make fun of these people. Now you are one of them.
Andy argued that she was just doing her job. One evening, Miranda gave Andy an impossible task. My twins want the new Harry Potter book. Get it for them.
You mean the one coming out next month?
I want the manuscript. Have it here by 3 p.m. It seemed impossible. The book was unpublished and highly guarded. Andy was about to quit. She felt defeated. Then she remembered Christian Thompson, a famous writer she met earlier. She called him, hoping he had connections.
I might know someone who designs the cover. Let me make a call.
Miraculously, Christian got the manuscript. Andy rushed to the train station to give the copies to the twins. She returned to the office and placed the book on Miranda's desk. Miranda was stunned. She couldn't fire Andy now. In fact, Miranda started to trust Andy more than Emily. The big event of the year was Fashion Week in Paris. Emily had been preparing for this trip for months. But Miranda called Andy into her office with bad news. I need someone capable in Paris. I am taking you instead of Emily.
But Emily has been dieting for weeks just for Paris.
If you don't go, you can assume you have no job here. Andy had no choice. She had to tell Emily. Before she could speak, Emily was hit by a car while running errands. Visiting Emily in the hospital, Andy broke the news. Emily was furious. You sold your soul to the devil! Before leaving for Paris, Andy told Nate.
We have nothing in common anymore, Andy. It's over.
Heartbroken but determined, Andy flew to Paris. Paris was beautiful, full of lights and fashion. Miranda was in her element, attending shows and parties. One night, Andy found Miranda crying in her hotel room. My husband is divorcing me. The press will have a field day. It was the first time Andy saw Miranda as a human being. But the vulnerability didn't last long. The next morning, Miranda was back to her cold self. Andy learned from Nigel that he was getting a promotion.
I am going to be a partner at a new design firm.
Andy was happy for him. Nigel had waited years for this. However, Andy discovered a secret plan. The owner of Runway was planning to replace Miranda. They wanted a younger French editor to take over. Andy felt she had to warn Miranda. She tried to tell her, but Miranda wouldn't listen. Later, at a big luncheon, Miranda made an announcement. She announced that the new design firm would be led by Jacqueline. Jacqueline was the French editor meant to replace Miranda. Nigel was stunned. That was supposed to be his job. Miranda had sacrificed Nigel to save her own career. Andy looked at Nigel, who was trying not to cry. In the car later, Miranda explained her logic to Andy. You see, I gave Jacqueline the job she wanted, so she wouldn't take mine.
But what about Nigel? He was so loyal to you.
Nigel will be fine. He will be rewarded in time. You remind me of myself, Andrea. You saw what was coming and you made a choice.
I'm not like you. I couldn't do what you did to Nigel.
You already did. To Emily. Those words hit Andy hard. She realized she had changed. The car arrived at the next event. Miranda got out and walked toward the cameras. Andy stayed in the car for a moment, then got out. But she didn't follow Miranda. Instead, she turned and walked away down the street. Miranda's phone started ringing in Andy's hand. Andy looked at the screen. It was Miranda calling. She walked to a beautiful fountain in the city center. She looked at the phone one last time. With a smile, she threw the phone into the fountain water. She felt light and free. Andy returned to New York and moved on with her life. She applied for a job at a major newspaper. The editor interviewing her was curious.
You worked at Runway for less than a year. Why?
Then he told her something surprising.
I called Runway for a reference. Miranda Priestley sent a fax herself. She wrote that you were a huge disappointment to her. But she also said if I don't hire you, I am an idiot.
Andy got the job. It was what she always wanted. She met Nate for coffee. He had found a new job too. They talked and agreed to figure things out slowly. Walking out of the cafe, Andy saw a familiar car. It was Miranda, getting into her limousine across the street. Their eyes met for a second. Andy waved, a small, polite wave. Miranda did not wave back. She looked away. She got into the car and closed the door. Inside the car, safe from the public eye, Miranda smiled. It was a tiny, genuine smile. Then she tapped her driver. Go. The car drove away into the busy New York traffic. Andy watched it go, then walked in the other direction. She had survived the devil, and she learned a lot. She learned about fashion, hard work, and integrity. Most importantly, she learned to be true to herself. Andy Sachs was finally ready to start her real career. She was no longer the girl who laughed at belts. She was stronger, smarter, and definitely better dressed. The experience at Runway was unforgettable. It showed her what she didn't want to become. But it also showed her what she was capable of. Even the toughest boss can teach you something valuable. This story reminds us that success is not just about the job title. It is about the choices we make along the way. And sometimes, walking away is the bravest choice of all. Thanks for joining us on Master English. See you next time.
听故事学英文是英文进步最好的方式。大师英文，谢谢您的收看。